Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Bricks King podcast, where I'm going to bend your ear about Lego, review those amazing bricks of plastic, and discuss what is new and up and coming around the Lego world. I'm your minifigure host, Matt. Let's bet on it. Howdy, howdy, partners. How are we doing today? How's everybody doing out there in the digital world? As you can tell by the title, we are talking finally about the brand new Lego set coming April 1st to Lego shelves everywhere. The Back to the Future DeLorean Time Machine. Goodness gracious, I love this thing. Now, DeLorean is not in the title, but we all know what it is. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about specs first. 10300 is the set number. Okay, get your placeholder ready. That way when it goes up at midnight, April 1st, you're like, boom, got it. Because I think it's going to go quick. Has 1,872 pieces. This is Creator Expert, by the way, the 18 Plus series theme. And it costs $170 here in the US, 170 euros, or 150 pounds. Now, I will say this. This set was amazing to build. Let's just get that out of the way to begin with. Super in-depth, unique build. Now, while this does have some Technic assembly to it, it felt way more like, way more as if there were plates, bricks, stuff like that, not the Technic side of it. Now, obviously, there's some Technic mechanism that is going on in here and some of that kind of stuff, but system building was really intense with this, and it was great because it was perfect. Now, this thing took me about 5.5, 6 hours, if I'm not mistaken. Really, really neat build, though. So let's talk about what it has, what it looks like, and then we'll dive into some of the more intricate details and different types of build things that I'd noticed as I'd gone through it. So the first thing up that you notice is, yes, there are stickers with this, obviously. But that isn't what you notice first. What you notice is the print, the DMC. The little 1x2 cheese wedge piece here that has that print on there of the vehicle model. I guess that's the manufacturer, DeLorean Motor Company. Anyway, so you have that. You have the headlights that are built up. They obviously don't turn on here, but they have that in the clear. But what you have here is you have this painted metallic gray that goes the whole way across for the bumper. It is also used along from the top of the roof along the sides in the back through the back bumper, which actually looks really sharp. And we'll get back there at some point. Anyway, so what you have here is at your front bumper. Your front bumper is made up of a few different assemblies. You have your main assembly here where your painted metallic gray is, and you have the translucent pieces that are behind it. And then just below that, you have this almost like it's a ground spoiler in the front. That is a separate build in its own right. And it's just kind of crazy how they all kind of really work together and look as if they're one piece, one unit, and they're absolutely not. Now, there are some interesting techniques that were used here. A lot of this, not so much studs on the side here, but they use some studs on the side pieces to be able to accomplish some of this, and they flip them let's see, they flip them kind of 90 degrees. So instead of being upright, they are tilted downward with the studs facing to the top. It's just or to the bottom. It's just a really crazy way of building this. And I thought it was something I really honestly didn't expect this. So underneath the main bumper, all of that is black. You have a nice black bumper that is here. But as you make your way around the side, now the sides are identical. What you do notice is you do have prints for the wheels, which is nice. We saw those with, I think this is the same print for the Vespa wheel mechanism, if I'm not mistaken, the chain drive mechanism. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty darn certain it's the same one. Now, this does not steer. So those of you that are looking for functions of like that with some of the other vehicles of this theme, this realm, not this theme, but I guess just vehicles in general, this does not steer, so you can't adjust the steering in any way, shape, or form. There's good reason to it, and we'll get to that. Now, as you move your way back, just behind the front wheels, you've got the cabling that is on the side of the car that is going from the front, and then it kind of hooks along the top ridge of the car and then down the side, and then you get it right underneath. They use metallic gray candle pieces here as well on the side. It gives you a nice rounded texture of like a foot kick, like a door kick spot where you would get into your car. Anyway, so that cabling continues up and around and into the back part of the car. Now, what I love about this is it's detailed. There's a lot of detail in this set in general, and we'll get to all of it here in a moment. But before we work any further towards the back, I want to finish up here on the front. Now, the entire hood assembly does lift up, and it is attached, but it only lifts up so much, but it gives you enough clearance so that you can get to the hoverboard, which is a beautiful little thing, extra little, piece to go along with it, the lore and stuff. It does have a sticker that just says hoverboard that fits in the front compartment as well under the hood. Then you have your plutonium canister here, and you've got some plutonium in there that just opens up. That is a sticker on there. There's actually two stickers. They use the 2x4 tile and a 1x4 tile, and you have a sticker on one and a sticker on the other. So my recommendation to you is, if you want it to look as seamless as possible, butt your stickers up to the very edge so that it looks like it is one solid piece. I did that with mine. It really looks just fine. So I'm going to put the hood back down. It's a nice little hood piece, actually, in the way that it is done. It is built on the side. It's kind of heavy for what it is, but it really works well. So I'm looking at it from the front now because the sides were identical. I'm looking at it from the front, and what you notice is a windscreen piece here. And, well, the windshield piece is brand new and never before done. Now, here is something that I want to pat Lego on the back about, right? I have been, and not just myself, many people have been critical about getting these plastic glass type pieces in these windshields, these windscreens, these windows, and they're horribly scratched to the point where it just looks really, really bad, especially in a vehicle. Well, when I opened the box and I got to that point of the build where I needed that, I was blown away because it was wrapped in a piece of plastic that has slight stickage to it. Not any kind of glue, but just a plastic film. It's, I don't know, probably about 5 inches by 5 inches, and it was wrapped in it. So it was perfectly packed. There was no way for it to scratch. And I was blown away by that. That to me says, you listen to the fan base, and the fan base said, we're tired of getting scratched plastic, and they handled it. And they did it. It's awesome. So you have that. The two little ridges that run up alongside of the, I guess it would be the shoulder piece here that runs up the side of the front windscreen. Those are actually attached to the roof assembly and the main chassis of this, the side body of it, with ball joints, which I thought was kind of neat. It gives you one of those things after you have things into place, you lock it into position with that. Now, the reason you need that is you need those there for the stability. And what stability for what, you might think? Well, the doors. The doors open just like they do in the movie. They open up from the bottom up to the top. Now, I will say this. As soon as you open them, they will fall back down due to gravity. They are heavy pieces. You're going to need to find something to be able to prop it open or come up with your own little ingenious solution to prop it open, because it just will not stay. But they are beautifully done. They're thick, heavy doors. I mean, they are really, really, really solidly built doors. You've got some studs on the side building here, which is nice in the way that they're done. So there's really not a whole lot of extra ugly pieces really sticking out right there. I love it. It's absolutely perfect. So if you're looking at maybe taking off the assembly, it's not super difficult to do. It's something I don't recommend. You can get to the inside here, but just be careful when you do it, as I'm doing it right now. Your actual windshield here is attached to angled pieces. You have angled pieces that attach to the windshield, and then down below that, they also attach to the dash to be able to get the angle of the dash as well. So all of that is one kind of large assembly there, so that, you can, I guess, get that perfect angle, which, I really don't know how else you could do it other than that. So let's talk about what else we have here on the outside. As we move towards the rear, there are 3 different configurations that you can put this vehicle in, and we'll talk about those, but I want to describe what you have in the rear. You have the engine type exhaust pieces that are back here. These are really built up well, really built up, brick built well. Man, that's just, that's a lot of words. One of the things that I did notice, and has kind of been a pain in the butt for me, is these engine pieces, they attach. All right, that's not the issue. They are very fragile in the way they're built, and they're kind of a pain in the butt. And I have more than once have had to remove part of the assembly, unclip it, reattach things. It's probably the most delicate part of the build, but to be able to get the fins and stuff like that to look like on the exhaust piece the way they should, and get it angled and get it clipped in, and to be able to attach hoses and such to it, you really have to do it like this. It's just unfortunate because it is a pain in the butt, man. It's just it's not an easy part of the build to stay pretty. And yeah, so it's that I wish that were a little bit different, because it was kind of a pain, in my opinion. So moving on, what else you have back here is you have your different capsule pieces that are back here. You can adjust this however you want to make it look like you want. You know what? Let me go ahead and just get to that, because you have your different configurations for your vehicle. So let's discuss those and then move on. So with this vehicle, you have the option to do the 3 different builds. You have the original one from the Back to the Future movie, the Back to the Future 2, or Back to the Future 3. So you can choose either one. Now, I will tell you, there are not enough parts to be able to do a complete build of each. There are some hoses and stuff like that that are used, and a few other pieces that are used in the builds as well. So while you can kind of build up some things, you can't completely build it up. So let's talk about the first one here. And the first one is probably the most simplest of them to configure. In the rear end, what you have is you have your sky hook. No, it's not a sky hook. What you have is you have this giant hook that is used to be able to get power, right? They hit the clock tower, so you can build that. But what I found really interesting to me is while you're building that, or while you have that built up, you're in your back end of things, you have these little micro type builds. And I don't remember what this thing was called, but you kind of have this little, not the flux capacitor, but you have this little, I don't know, this mechanical piece back here. It is printed 2x2 round tile with a hole in the center. And that just sits atop a few bricks, which is fine. But there's little cables, cords that are going from each side. There's a metallic gray one on each side, and then you have 2 black ones, and they're not really going into anything. They're just clipping into place. Now, there is a large hook that is connected. It's like the Bo Peep crook from except this is in black. So it's a larger crook. And anyway, a bunch of Technic axle pieces put together to extend that thing. It actually does scale pretty well, I must say. my wife was like, "What is that thing on the back?" What do you mean? What is that thing on the back? Have you not seen the movie? Anyway, so you do have that, but on the back end here, like I had mentioned, you have a whole bunch of little different hoses and stuff like that are going to bits and bobs in here just to make it look extra super duper pretty. Now, the wheels that you have on here right now, the ones that I have on here right now, go with this. It's the black wheel on the silver rim, and then it has the printed silver spoke piece that is in here, so that works as well. So, as well along the backside, you have a few little canisters of some things that are back here that have a cap on. You've got, now I don't remember what these are for, but you have these green unicorn horns in sand green, and I just can't remember if it was a purpose or it was just for looks or whatever, but those are on here as well. And then they get the slopes of the rear end where, if this were a regular car, you would have the cover back here, the glass, the rear hatch of the car. And they did such a great job getting the slopes of this angle. It's just immaculate in the way that it was done. And believe it or not, that whole assembly is attached, but then it is clipped into place. And I had to actually, you feel like you're going to break it when you press these in, because you have one on the top or you have two on the bottom, one on each side. And then you have one just above on the top, which is towards like the cabin of the vehicle. And you'll notice if you don't get it in, because the first time I clicked it in, I thought all three of them clicked and it didn't. And there's a slight variance in how far it sticks out. So you most definitely will know if you did not get it in. Just be gentle. Don't force it. If it doesn't go the first time, just kind of wiggle it and adjust it a little bit, and it'll go in just nice and easy. So that goes for both sides as well. You have that, and it's a nice little assembly. So coming down from the top part of the car back here along the rear engine part, what you have is the painted metallic gray again, and that is just following the body line of the car, like I said, and then down into the bottom rear end of the car. Now, there is a weird little gap that is in between, because you're changing from an angle to a flat surface with how this is done. It does look a little wonky, but I got to say the designers did a pretty good job. Now, another thing that you might notice about it that is a little bit wonky is the part of this is actually attached to a bar. And there's a bar attached to a 1x1 round plate. It is that piece, right? And the plate is not going anywhere. That little piece, that whole thing right there, is not going anywhere. But it does swivel back and forth. It allows you to get a different look depending on how you want your DeLorean build to maybe look, or how you want it to line up. I think this is probably the best they could have done based on what they had to use. So I'm not going to beat them up about that. It looks a little wonky if you're looking at it for that reason, but for the most part, most people are not going to look at it and say, oh, well, that looks horrible. Anyway, so to the very rear end of this, this is probably one of my favorite parts, and here's why. The lights look exquisite. This feels like a Speed Champions car that has been scaled up. You have your orange lights, your double red lights. You have your clear lights, which are supposed to be your reverse lights. Really nicely done back here. This entire assembly back here was really cool to build. Just seeing how you get different looks and different feels for things, because it's not built in what you would consider a traditional way. And then there's also this window that is turned on its side, and you're like, what is going on here? Well, there's very good reason for it. The window is turned on its side because you have an opportunity to choose between two different license plates. They are on clear backed glass, and they are printed, or not printed, they are beautifully done stickers. So yeah, they did a really good job here. The first one says California, and it has 2015 on it. It's kind of weird. And then it's got a bunch of numbers there that are down on the bottom. It says 136113966. I can't remember. That's got to be something. I'll have to look into that. I'm not quite sure. And then the other one says California, out of time. I love it. It's perfect. They just pop in and click into place. because they're just little glass pieces, and then you can pop them right back out and, change them out, swap them out, however you want to do it. Absolutely love it. Super neat idea. Really, really ingenious to just add that extra detail. So moving along, what we have here is we have the next build that I wanted to talk about. And the next build was kind of interesting in its own right as well, because when you get to the second movie and you get the flying car, which is amazing, you've got to have Mr. Fusion. You got to have him. So you have a pot that you put some stuff into, banana peels or whatnot. It comes with a few different things. You just toss in there. So you toss that stuff in there. You put the lid on that attaches with Mr. Fusion, and you lock it into place using a red skeleton leg. So you lock it into place. Anyway, that is sitting on top of its own assembly. You remove the other assembly if you don't want it in there, or if you just want to build this specific model of the car, then you don't have to worry about any of the other stuff. You don't have to worry about it being anywhere near. But you have that, so I like the way that is done. This also uses the same exact wheel assembly. The only difference here is where we're going, we don't need roads. Because this thing does a transformation job that is probably one of the coolest things I have ever seen. Now, I had mentioned in the beginning, this is not super Technic heavy, and it's not. But this build has some Technic pieces to it. This is probably the most intricately done build for this kind of assembly I have ever seen. I've built Technic sets that have the engines and stuff like that. I know what that is. But the way all of this ties in flawlessly is beautiful. You have some arms that are coming off of the center assembly of the car. There's two of them, by the way. And you have one at the front and one at the rear. What Lego did to make it even easier is so you know which end of the car you're supposed to be working on. They have it white in the front, red in the rear. You keep everything lined up. Higgledy-piggledy, nice and easy. It's awesome. It works well. All right, everyone, we've got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. So what you have is you have a few Technic components that are in here, and then you have some rubber bands. There's 2 rubber bands up in the front assembly and 2 in the rear, and they are what are giving you the tension to be able to lock the wheels upright or in down position for flying. What is great is you have 4 little gears that work here simultaneously with the arms that are attached to the wheel assembly, that are attached to the main assembly, just above where the wheels are in the center of the body. And there is a red handle underneath. Now, make sure you pay attention to the instructions for some of this specifically, because it is going to tell you to make sure you have the arm in a certain position so that it does not move. Because if you're not in that position, you're not going to get this build to go together the right way. Anyway, so this thing moves and boom, clicks into place just like that. The wheels are down. It looks perfect. If you don't want it to be doing that, or you're like, you know what, I'm done flying right now, you click it back in the other position and the wheels return to their normal spots. Now, I've got to say this is probably one of my favorite parts of the build. It was such a blast to go through and just kind of experience what it's like to create something like this. Like, I'm not a Lego designer by any means, but what it did for me is it just kind of gave me this feeling of like I was there and I kind of knew what was going on. God, it was so amazing. I just had so much fun going through it. And I got to commend the design team on it. It was perfect. Now, one of the other things that I wanted to bring your attention to was that on the bottom side, when you go through this build, if you're going to keep it in this mode, that's cool. That's not a big deal at all. But there are 1x2 clear bricks, 2 of them in the front, 2 of them in the rear. And they are basically your stand if you were going to keep it in this build so that you're not putting pressure, I guess, on the rubber bands and everything else. It helps it display up off of the ground just ever so slightly. But if you don't want them, for whatever reason, you can remove them. It shows you in the instructions. You can remove it if you so wish. My opinion is no, I'm going to leave them here because they look sick. I love the way that it is done. So for me, it was, I'm keeping this thing in here. I love it way, way, way too much. So then moving along, what you have next is you have one of the more unique builds. So if you want to move to the third movie build where they're out in the West, right? I guess the Wild West, not the Midwest, out in the Wild West, what you are essentially going to do is you are modifying this vehicle. Not only are you changing the wheels, of course, but you are also changing the way this front end assembly attaches. It is ever so slightly different. So you do have to think about, well, how do I want to go about doing this? Is this really what I want to do? Is this something I'm really wanting to tear apart to try and do? Sure. Why not? Now, the only difference when you are building the assembly in the front again is that you are the hood assembly, to be more clear. Instead of having the bricks, the 1x4 bricks that have studs on the side, instead of having those studs facing down to the inside where you don't see them, you're essentially just building it again and having them face upright so that you can attach the next assembly that you're going to build. It's a minor assembly, but it does need attachment points. So once you have those attachment points, it's simple and easy. We're still keeping Mr. Fusion in the back because you need Mr. Fusion. Anyway, so with that in mind, you have this little assembly that is built up here, and it almost feels like something that should be going on top of a Ghostbusters car. I guess, it fits with this as well. But as I mentioned, some of the pieces here, you have to use pieces from the other build. Like you need the hose, is one hose. So you need one of the hoses. You need a few of the clear pieces. There's just a few things that you have to be able to accomplish this. So now the nice thing is, after this is attached onto the front, this has a little crook in it as well, a little cane. So you have that. That thing is sitting there, beautifully done, perfectly built. I absolutely love it. Once you have that done, you swap out the wheels. And the wheels are super duper easy to swap out because you get a whole nother set of wheel rims. Okay, they are in white. They have a red centerpiece, and then they have gray on the outside. All you do is pull the entire wheel off because you need the tire. You got to take the tire off, put the tire on this one, and now you have your new wheels there for the train wheels that you're using. So you have that. It's a slight modification. It's just a matter of how you want to do it. How do you want this vehicle to look for you? I personally like this one best of all in the sense of it was one of my favorite parts in the film franchise. I thought it was a really cool idea. Maybe some people are going to be like, no, that was so washed out. They're like, no, we're done with that. Either way, doesn't really matter. So there are a few things that I wanted to touch on here. Those are the three builds, but there's a few things that I want to touch on about the car. I want to get to the inside, but then one of the other pieces, one of the brand new pieces that are brand spanking new for this year comes in the form of a sloped brick that is a 2x4. But its height is a little bit different because it is angled down. That is how they get the sloping, the tapering of the front along the edges around the wheel well or above the wheel well. But that is how they accomplish the sloping here. And the way this attaches is, let's see if I can get off here. It attaches to another one and then another one and then another one. It's beautiful because what they have is 3 bricks back. Okay, so 3 bricks distance back out of the 4. There's a little notch in here down in the bottom part where you would consider it like a plate, right? And what they do here is that is enough of a notch to be able to attach another one of these pieces to it. Okay, so there are 3 in total on each side, and they get that perfect angle, and they're just seamlessly built in. I mean, you would never know. This is a truly specialized piece for a truly purposeful build in a masterclass way. It's amazing in the way that it was done. I absolutely loved it. Just when I saw it, I was like, I'm pretty sure this is brand new. And sure enough, after doing some research, I found out, yeah, it is definitely brand new. So down on the inside of this vehicle, this is where, I guess you could say this is where all the fun happens, right? I mean, you're hanging out in your vehicle, you're doing your own thing, but this is where the fun really is. So on the inside, you have your steering wheel and you have these nice brick-built seats. Now, the seats only go back so far. There is actually a modified plate that keeps it from moving any further back so you're not breaking anything. But as I'm looking here at the driver's side, just above where the head piece is for the chair, for the driver's seat, there is a printed piece here that says 82 on it. It's got some gauges. Down in the footrest area, it's kind of ugly looking. You get to see some of the Technic bits and bobs, but that's not the end of the world, right? You have a nice steering wheel here. Again, like I said, the steering wheel does not work to turn anything. It actually does spin, but it's not adjusting anything. It's there for cosmetic purposes only. Now, one of the other things is all these stickers in here for the dash are, well, all the dash coverings in here are stickers, except for the keypad, which is a print, which is a reused print. But the one above the steering wheel just has some printed gauges. You can't really see anything. It's just a bunch of lines, dashes that are going on there. But then when you get into the actual gauges for the film, then you start to see like, oh my God, this is cool, because you have the orange and the green and the yellow that have the times and the dates and stuff like that. And then you have this beautiful shift knob that is on here. You've got a little console piece in the center. And then off to the right where the passenger would be is your plutonium chamber meter. And you've got a few other gauges that are there. Again, stickers as well. And his chair, the passenger seat, is absolutely the same way, built the exact same way. And you also have that same similar gauge up around the headrest as well as the 82 on it. Now, if you're thinking, you know what, that is cool and all, well, that isn't the coolest part. Here is why. One of the most seamlessly created pieces that I have ever seen for a light brick. This has to be it. No red knob or button or anything like that. It is a Technic axle that attaches to a cone piece that attaches to a curved tiled-ish piece, I guess a rounded tiled piece. And then that presses on a rubber piece. A rubber piece, because what the rubber is doing is it is giving a buffer for the mechanism that you're pressing down. It is the buffer, the tension buffer for the light brick, because if you press the light brick down, you may not get that full effect because you don't have any pressure forcing the bottom of this mechanism into the light brick. You know what I'm talking about? We've all done light bricks before. You have an idea of where I'm going with this. So what the rubber piece does is it holds friction on it, and what that does is it comes through from the rear and it lights up the consoles. It is so stinking neat. I love the way it was done. It's so brilliant. It's a great idea. I loved it. It was absolutely phenomenal. I knew, you know, when you get a light brick, you're like, oh, I kind of have an idea of where this might be used, but full on the way that it was initiated, completed, just the general idea behind it, the completion was flawless. It was just perfect. So that is pretty much the car in a nutshell. A lot of tiling around the outsides, which is beautiful because you don't get any of this weird, ugly looking stuff. You just have this solid looking car on the outside. Now let's talk about minifigs. You do get a placard here. It is a giant sticker. It just says Back to the Future, Time Machine, Manufacturer, which is Doc E. Brown Enterprises. The year, the power, which is the 1.21 gigawatts. The fuel, which is plutonium, and the activation speed of 88 miles an hour. But Doc has to be one of my favorite minifigs done in, I don't know, forever. His suit, his yellow print here is exquisite. He's in yellow, has his printed red shirt on underneath his jacket and stuff like that. He even has the gridded overlay of his costume that he's wearing in the movie, which is, oh my God, it's great. And then you've got his shorts here, and then you've got his toe printing on for his laces of his boots that he's wearing. Man, I love this. It is a really nicely done print. I am really impressed with this print. It really works well. Now, he does only have a tiny little bit of printing on the back. That would be along the neck area, the collar area. But he does come with two different faces. He does come with a scared kind of Doc face, and then he comes with the one where he's got his little smirk, and he's got his shielded glasses on, his little futuristic glasses, and he's got his white hairpiece that we have seen before with the blowing back, receding hairline guy. Now, Marty, this is where I was kind of like, man, I wish they would have done something different. So I'm 99% sure we have seen Marty's face before as a different minifig, except these are in that tannish, not tan, that peach colored plastic. Anyway, so he's got his brown hair that he's got going on with his little, maybe not so much wavy locks, but just kind of free flowing that's going on there. He has a serious face where his lips are together, and then on the other side, more of like an angry / perplexed face with the raised eyebrow and the mouth kind of teeth gritted together. He has the blue pants, red top, and gray arms, believe it or not, dark bluish gray. I like the way his jacket is done. It actually looks really sharp. I would love to see more similar to this. It does have the fringe on the back end of it, on the rear side of it that is on the lower side, and then you do have the cross pattern across the back, the stitching pattern, I guess, the whole way across the back. His pants I really like as well. The pockets look really nice that are done here. The shoes, he's wearing those weird funky shoes, and they really did a good job of capturing the print, more so on the side. I mean, they really look good from the side. But I like his minifig overall, aside from the face. It was just something I was like, man, really? Now, I will tell you, these minifigs, they are not to scale. So putting them in the car, they're going to absolutely look stupid because the car is not to minifig scale. It's just not. So if you're looking for that, I'm sorry, that's not what you're getting here, but you are still getting something really cool. Now, as a whole, I've got to admit, I think this is probably one of the best builds, like I said, of a vehicle. I think it's well worth $170, honestly. I plan on getting another one, because I want to put one in an alternate build permanently. I don't want to have to switch it around. So I most definitely am interested in that. I'm going to take my shot and hope that I get one April 1st. If not, I have a feeling it's going to be like a 2-month wait, maybe even longer. But yeah, most definitely, I think it is well worth the money. I think you guys are going to have an absolute blast putting this thing together, seeing some of the really cool building techniques on the inside, working with the new pieces. Hopefully your glass is not scratched. If it is, let me know. If it doesn't have a plastic coating over, let me know, because I want to send that information back to Lego. I want to make sure mine is not a fluke in the sense that, you know, the rest of them don't have it, or only a certain batch of them have it. Let me know, though. I most definitely will give feedback to them about this. So, yeah. But I hope you guys enjoyed the review, the discussion of it. I thought it turned out really well. I think it's going to be a super impressive set for the year. I think it's going to make a lot of people's top 10s, top 5s throughout the year. It's most definitely on my list as we speak. It's just a matter of where it lands for the rest of the year. So this is going to wrap it up. Make sure, if you're listening to this today, March 21st, come check out the stream with April B at twitch.tv/April B. I will be over there with her. I will not be on my Twitch platform because that's way too advanced for it. Advanced is not the right word. It's a whole nother level of stuff to deal with. So for me, yeah, it doesn't really, I'm like, oh God, I don't know about that. But with that in mind, we'll be streaming at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time here in the United States. And it would be 6 p.m. Eastern and 4 p.m. on the West Coast. Come stop by, say hi to myself, say hi to April. Going to be doing some of the building of this, because I'm going to tear this thing down a little bit, tear it apart a little bit, and then we're going to go and pick up the build from there and take questions and comments and just have a good old chat. It's probably going to be about 3 hours. So we'll be around. Come on in, say hi. And yeah, anyway. So with that in mind, I'm going to get out of here, and I have another show coming for you guys later this week. I will be heading to Pennsylvania here on Wednesday evening for my sister's wedding, my younger sister's wedding. So I'm excited for that. But we will have a show. It is with Brick Huntress, Kate Hunter, and it is, well, I'm going to keep the topic, and you guys will find out, but it was a fun show to record with her a few weeks back, and we're going to play it then. And yeah, the next time I see you guys, I see you. Until then, I'm your minifig host, Matt. Let's build on it.